Hello everyone, welcome back to Kirkley's Guitar School. In today's electric guitar lesson, I'm going to teach you how to play Wild Thing by the Troggs. Now this is a multi-skilled lesson. I'm going to start off with a slightly easier version of the song using power chords, and we're going to then have a discussion about bar chords and how to bridge that gap and show you how they're doing it on the record. Now there's a full PDF that you can download of both transcriptions back to back in one big file from my website. First link in the description will take you to my website. You don't have to sign up for anything. There's no BS. You just literally click on the web page, click download PDF, and it's yours completely for free. No monkey business. If you're looking to sort of bridge that gap between power chords and bar chords, this is a great lesson, and I encourage you to stick around. Right, so speaking of which, so on the very top, we've got some power chords for the beginner's version, and then at the bottom we've got the bar chords that I'm going to use for what they're actually doing on the record. So we're using an A, a D, and an E chord in various kind of ways. If you want a really in-depth, if you want an in-depth view on how I play this along to the record, after November the 13th, this will be available on the Kirkley's Guitar School Academy. Alongside that, I've got a great technical focus lesson which you can take on that as well, where we discuss bridging that gap, and I've got some exercises which will help turn these power chords into bar chords. So head to the academy if it's after the 13th of November, and let me know how you get on with that. Right, so to start with, we're going to start with the beginner's version, which looks like this. So we start with a it sounds like the horn of a car, and when I've done a little bit of research into this, looking at how they do it on the record, how they do it live, the guitar plays like a bent note for the... It could even be that on the record. I'm struggling to kind of tell what it is. So I'm going to bend the 7th fret of the G string. I'm going to bend it up a full step, but this is called a pre-bend. So I'm going to bend the note equivalent to 2 frets. So that note, that D note, I'm going to oik it up so it sounds like an E. I'm going to pluck the note. And like I'm letting air out of a balloon, I'm going to let it down. So notice how I bend the note first, pick it, and can you hear me gradually bringing that down? Just a little bit of something extra. And then we get into the bit that everybody knows. So we're going to play an A5 chord. So going back to this slide here, top right, that's the chord that we're playing. So we're going to use, I'd prefer it if you use your index finger and your ring finger for these. If you're struggling with the stretch, you can use your pinky in place of your third finger, but it will make the bar chords a little bit later in this lesson more difficult for you. So, fret 5 on the low E string, that A note, and then we've got what we call the perfect 5th underneath it, which is on the 7th fret of the A string. And I'm going to strum the strings, but I'm only going to strike these two. Like that, I'll take my drive off. And can you see how I hit that chord twice? Moving on, we're going to go to the D5 chord. Now, I'm going to keep flitting back to this. This is attached to the PDF, by the way, so if you've got it, I'd print it out if you're able to. So I'm looking at the middle chord now. If you compare the A5, top left, to the D5, middle top, you can see it's the same shape, but we just literally move it down a string. So we've got A5 here. I take this shape, move it down a string, so I'm on the 5th fret of the A string, 7th fret of the D string, and I'm going to do two more strokes there. Now, these two notes, I've just chopped the rhythm off underneath this. That's quite annoying. You've got two longer notes, and then this first note of the D is a little bit shorter. So you've got A, D, D. Think of how the song goes. Just be mindful, that very first D chord is a bit more of a short, sharp note. And then we're going to look at a third and final chord for this, which is top right, E5. So we take that D5 shape. We're still on the A and the D strings, but we're going to move it up 2 frets to the 7th fret and the 9th fret. So we're going to go from here, that's that D chord, and we're going to go up 1, 2 frets. So we're pressing this E note here and this B note down here to create an E5 chord. But notice how we break out of that pattern. Occasionally, whenever the band's going somewhere, they'll play this rhythm in place of the... Because you think Wild Thing, you're thinking this. He says, right key. That's coming in the next slide, but for the intro, it sits on that E chord and it'll go E, 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 and I'm doing all downstrokes here, by the way. So that E chord. So I'll do three short ones, 3 quavers. I'll do 1 longer one for a crotchet, and then 2 short ones again. Da, 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 da. Try and sort of tap that rhythm on top of your guitar. So before we move on, we've got the bend. This comes back again and again and again. The bend doesn't come back, but this rhythm does, so it's a really good idea to get it under your fingers. Pause the video and tackle that for me. So after we've looked at the intro, those 3 chords that we've looked at so far for the beginner version, we're not really going to deviate from that apart from one little bit in the chorus, which is not, it's more 2 notes rather than chords, if that makes sense. Now, when you think of Wild Thing, you think of da 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 da. That's this bit here. Now, the first bar is the same as what we've done before. But then what we're going to do, we're going to go up to E, and rather than sticking on it, we're going to play the same rhythm we did in the first bar, but we're going to alternate between this E5 chord up on fret 7 and fret 9, and we're going to come back to this D chord here. Now, look at my fretboard here. Can you see I'm moving in like this L shape? A, D, E, D. Now, there's so many sort of like rock and sort of blues stuff that has this kind of shape. This is called a 1-4-5 progression, which means it uses the 1st, the 4th, and the 5th chords built from the major scale. Now, if that all sounded like gibberish to you, I'd encourage you to check out the Academy when it launches, because we're going to go through all that kind of stuff. And I've got a music theory course that'll be well worth your time, which explains intervals and all that kind of business. But if you've ever heard this before, it's all built off that blues thing. And I hear those chords and I'm thinking, I can hear, you know, Louie Louie or the Ramones. There's so many songs that follow this kind of L-shaped pattern, and it's called a 1-4-5 progression, and this song's no different. So, tangent over, back here, we're going to go A, D, D, E, E, D, D. Can you hear how the rhythm in this bar is the same as this bar? Wild Thing. And we're going to do this 3 times for every verse. You see over here it says times 3. So you're going to go. You're going to do that 3 times. And upon doing it for the 4th time, it changes ever so slightly. So the first bar is identical. This is the 2nd line of verse 1 if you're following along on the PDF. Nothing new here. But then this rhythm comes back. Now, it's the first 4 notes of that intro. Do you remember in the very first slide? And then we've got this over here. Wild Thing, I think I love you. It's that bit, right? So let me just caveat this before I start waffling. I always look at live clips when I put these lessons together just to see how, you know, to hear it from the horse's mouth. Depending on what era they're in, as in whether it's relatively recently, can't I say, within the past 20 years, or whether it's back in the day, or even somewhere in between in the 90s, there's a couple of different ways that they can do it. And I think it's such a simple lick that it's wherever the hand is on the guitar. And it's quite a straightforward song, so they can get it wherever they want. What I've chosen to do in this version for the beginner's version is do it at the bottom of the neck because it feeds into another lesson that I've got planned. If you stick around for the bar chords at the end, I'll show you how they do it on the 60s kind of original. But we're playing the same notes, but we're either playing it down here in 1st position or up here in 5th position, just before anyone gets cross with me. So, we've gone A, D, D, E, 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 da, 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 There's another note after this. You'll play those 3 notes and feel like it hasn't resolved. Now, I'm barring it, but you can play it as 2 fingers. I'm essentially playing the open D and the open G string, and then the 2nd fret of both those. That's what that sounds like down here. And again, I'm just picking those two strings, the D and the G. Now, these are what I call upside down power chords. You'll have heard it before in things like and they're basically taking a power chord and putting it upside down. So I've got open, 2nd, open, and then after this bar, which we're going to look at in a second, it resolves to that 2nd fret again. But just before we go there, I'd like to play this whole bit for you. Now, as we go to the next slide, that's that 2nd fret that I was saying comes up again. So you're going O2, O2. Now these, I call these washing lines. The Sunday names are tie. And what that means is you're going to play this 2nd fret and you're going to hang on to it for so long, it actually bleeds over into the next bar. And then it'll go da, 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 and you see the repeat markers. Da, 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 da. So this is a long one, but it actually starts the bar. It might be a little bit confusing if you've never seen anything like this before, but all I need you to do is you hit that on beat 1, you hold it, dun, 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 dun. Let me play it for you. So from here, now the lyric here is "Wild Thing, I Think I Love You." Wild thing, I think I love you. I wanna know for sure. Da 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 da, whatever he says. So after we've done it 3 times, can you see on the bottom line, we literally just play those 2 notes and we're just going to let it fade out before we go into verse 2. So at that point, apart from one bit which we're going to talk about in a second, you've got all the moving parts to the song there. First couple of pages of the PDF is the easy version, so I've just taken you through the intro and the verse, and then the 4th line down, which is, it starts with that bit. Let's loosely call that as chorus, even though it isn't. Where do we go from there? Right, we'll talk about that in a second. So at the bottom of page 1, we're going to verse 2, which is identical to verse 1. Nothing new to write home about. And then into the solo. Now the solo, although it's labelled different on the tab, we don't do anything different. It's just another verse and chorus for us. But there's I always thought it was like a flute or something, but actually I think it's like an ocarina or like some sort of like folky wind instrument. I don't know why that's there, but whatever, you do you. Following that, we go back to the main riff at the bottom of page 2, which is nothing to write home about. It sounds like this. Yeah, that I spoke about in the verse. In the intro. See here, this rhythm here. Now, following that, after the solo, you'll go back to the main riff, and then you'll start here. As we get to the top of page 3, you'll notice that he hangs on that E chord for quite a long time with the same rhythm. Dun 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 dun. Now, we're going to play that rhythm for 3 bars. Now, can you see the rhythm changes here? So instead of it being but, we're going to quavers. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'll start here, I'll play this bar, and then notice what changes here. Now, I was really heavy-handed there to make a point. You'll see me slides cut it off, which is quite annoying. Underneath this, you'll see 2 jaws opening. Can I show the camera without it making my camera fart out? I'm not quite sure, but we'll see. Underneath it, there's like 2 jaws that open down here. Don't know if you can see that. Now, that's called a crescendo. Basically, what that means is I want you to start off at regular volume, but as the bar goes on, I want you to make the note, the chord louder. And it's just a way, the band are really giving it some before going into verse 3. Now, verse 3 is, Well, that's his bar chord bit. We'll talk about that in a second. The song finishes on verse 3, just the... It'll go around that 6 times and fade out. So from that point, you've one of two bits, basically. You've either got... or... have a go with the record at a fairly kind of steady tempo, and if you're... one of these, I won't advise you to sort of read the music with this for the whole song. It's one of those songs where it's one of two bits, and I want to encourage you to try and eventually break away from the tab so that you can just sit and play the guitar and play it without having all the sheets and all the guff that comes with it. So that's like my beginner's version of the song. If you were just getting into power chords, and some people that I teach in the classes here at the school are just getting into power chords, this is a bog standard kind of really good one to start with because there's a lot of good information and it's not really, really, really hard to play. If you've got that so far, let's try and turn that into bar chords now. So we're going to keep the same structure. Everything's the same. I'm just going to show you the two bits, but with bar chords instead. At the back end of the PDF, the last 3 pages of the PDF, which you can download from the first link in the description, you can get that for free. And it's all notated out in bar chords for you as well. But I don't want to eat up any more of your time today than I already have. So let's have a look here. Let's have a look at the chords at the bottom. So we've got an A bar chord, which is what we call an E-shaped bar chord on the 5th fret. We've got a D chord, which is an A-shaped bar chord, confusingly, on the 5th fret of the A string. And then we're going to move that up 2 frets to an E, which is very, very, very similar to what we were doing with the power chords with the 1-4-5 chord progression. So let's have a look here. This is what the verse sounds like. Now, to me, instantly already, that sounds more like the record. And I can hear it on the record. They're not doing it in open chords, it's bar chords. Now, you will notice on my diagrams, I'm telling you to use 4 fingers for that D and that E chord. I've got hands the size of shovels. I really struggle to get those 3 on top of each other like that. If you're like me, you can bar those notes and bar that one as well. If that works for you, by all means, be my guest. So nothing's changed there. We're just playing those chords there. And then we need to talk about the wild thing, I Think I Love You part, because they do it slightly different. So we've got A, D. Notice the different rhythm on the E that I keep talking about. Now what we're going to do here, we're going to do a power chord down here, but we're going to play it with the 5th fret of the E string, the 7th fret of the A, and the 7th fret of the D. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bar those 3 notes on the 5th fret. And then I'm going to put those 2 fingers on the 7th fret. See what I'm doing there? I'm looking at these 3 notes here. So bar the 5th fret, and you're adding and subtracting the 7th fret of the A and the D string. I'm pretty sure that's how they're doing that. If you want to be super duper safe, you could add the major 3rd in as well. But I can't hear that note. All I can hear is... Now, there's a great... I've done it, so of course I'm going to say it's great. I've done a technical focus lesson on the Kirklees Guitar School Academy for this, which helps bridge that gap with an exercise in between that. What I would do if I were you is I'd learn the song in the sort of beginner power chord version first, and then I would check out the technical focus lesson on the website, and then I'd add the bar chords in if you're finding that as a little bit of a struggle. There's no secret sauce I can give you with bar chords. We just need to make it part of your everyday vernacular, and something will click along the line, and that point's different for everybody. A lot of people find some headway with cowboy chords, and then when they get to bar chords, it's really difficult and I can't do it, and they're almost like talking themselves out of it before they're giving it a fair shake. If you'd have done that when you were studying cowboy chords, when you couldn't play anything, you'd have given up on guitar ages ago. So that's why when you come to see somebody like me or another music teacher, really patient and just like, it'll come, you just got to keep trying it and just keep nudging you in the right direction. Keep showing up with the bar chords and it will come eventually, I promise you. Tones wise, nothing really too much to write home about. I just fancy playing my Strat today, so that's what I got out of the cupboard. I'm using a JTM 45 preset on the Quad Cortex. If I was playing it with power chords, I'd have a little bit of overdrive on, just to make it sound meaner. If I'm playing it with open chords, I'm going to use neck pickup, just clean. Either way is fine. Don't get too wrapped up in that. I did try and do a little bit of research, but every live clip I saw, they were playing different gear. So if you know what they're playing, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to go to the website and get all the extra resources for this. It will really help you get under your fingers. And there's also nearly 100 other free guitar tabs that you can download completely for free. No sign-ups, no nothing. And it'll really help you get somewhere with your guitar playing. What song do you think I should cover next? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you next week for another guitar lesson. Thank you so much for watching.